Most people who've tried apple cider vinegar and concluded it doesn't work made one fundamental mistake. Not the brand, not the dose, the timing. Get the timing wrong and you're not just wasting its potential, you may actually make hunger and cravings harder to manage. Get it right, and you have a modest but real metabolic tool sitting in your kitchen for a few dollars. Today I want to walk you through two specific windows in your day where apple cider vinegar interacts with a biology already primed to respond. Most people know about the first one. Almost nobody talks about the second. And honestly, the second one may deserve even more of your attention. Let's start with the basics, because understanding why timing matters requires understanding what actually happens in your body when you eat. Every time food enters your system, insulin rises. Insulin is the hormone that signals fat storage. When it's elevated, your body burns fat less efficiently. The higher and sharper the insulin spike from a meal, the longer the fat-burning window stays closed afterward. The lower and flatter that curve, the more time your body spends in a state favorable to using fat. This is a central principle that goes beyond simple calorie counting or willpower. It comes down to hormonal environment. Apple cider vinegar can modulate that environment. The active compound is acetic acid. Several human studies suggest acetic acid can reduce the blood sugar and insulin spike from a meal, with observed effects generally falling between 20 and 30% depending on the protocol. It appears to modestly improve insulin sensitivity, meaning cells respond better to the insulin available. It slightly slows gastric emptying, turning a rapid glucose surge into a more gradual rise. In some cases, this can make a carb-heavy meal behave somewhat more like a moderate one metabolically. But here's what's rarely explained. These effects are only measurable if the acetic acid is in your system before the glucose from your meal arrives. Take it after the meal and the spike has already happened. Insulin has already risen. The window has closed. So the first timing window is this: 10 to 20 minutes before your largest meal of the day. 1 tablespoon of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, ideally organic with the mother, in about 10 ounces of water. Drink it through a straw. The acidity is real, and repeated direct contact with your teeth can erode enamel over time. A squeeze of lemon is perfectly compatible and improves the taste. That 10 to 20 minute window gives your stomach acid time to mobilize, your digestive enzymes time to activate, and your gut time to slightly slow its motility. All conditions favorable to a more measured glycemic response when food arrives. Here's what unfolds step by step when you do this right. In the first 5 minutes, acetic acid reaches the stomach. Gastric pH drops slightly, which corresponds to normal digestive function. The digestive system is designed to be acidic, and that acidity activates the enzyme cascade that breaks food down. Many people, especially as they age, have reduced gastric acid production, which can complicate digestion. This is one reason some report improved digestive comfort. Between 5 and 10 minutes, the stomach slightly slows gastric emptying. Food entering moves into the small intestine at a more controlled pace. This is the main mechanism that flattens the glucose curve. Between 20 and 60 minutes after the meal, the insulin modulation phase unfolds. Studies show a modest but consistent reduction in postprandial glucose, including in carb-heavy meals, and including in some people with insulin resistance. Lower insulin response, potentially reduced post-meal inflammation. From 1 to 3 hours after the meal, you're in a more stable metabolic phase. Ghrelin, the hunger hormone, stays better regulated because blood sugar is steadier. Cravings press in less. Energy stays more constant. You're less likely to reach for something 2 hours after dinner. From 3 to 5 hours out, appetite genuinely seems reset for many people. This is where consistent practitioners notice they stop wanting to snack at night. Portion control becomes easier because you're not arriving at the next meal depleted and ravenous. Late-night snacking drops, and that matters because late-night eating keeps insulin elevated during the hours when your body should be shifting toward repair and overnight fat oxidation. This timing seems particularly useful if you tend to store weight around the abdomen, if you show signs of insulin resistance, if you wake up hungry, or if despite reasonable eating and exercise, body composition stalls. These are all signals suggesting that insulin response is a limiting factor. Now let's talk about common mistakes. The first, taking vinegar too far from a meal, randomly throughout the day, an hour before eating, or with no meal following. You lose the glycemic benefit because there's no glucose event to blunt. In some people, taking it on an empty stomach with no food coming can drop blood sugar a bit too quickly and trigger a rebound craving. You end up hungrier than when you started. Second mistake, using the wrong product. Choose raw, unfiltered with the mother. The mother is the cloudy sediment at the bottom of the bottle, where the active compounds concentrate. Pasteurized, filtered versions contain far less. The gummies sold everywhere generally contain so little real vinegar that they're largely irrelevant, and they often include added sugars that work against the very goal you're pursuing. Third mistake, drinking vinegar straight. Always dilute it, at least 10 ounces of water, with a straw if possible. Avoid mixing it with fruit juice, which spikes blood sugar and cancels the intended effect. Now here's the part rarely discussed. There's a second window, and for many people, especially those dealing with unstable blood sugar, poor sleep, nighttime cravings, or low morning energy, this second window may matter even more. Before bed, 1 to 2 tablespoons in a glass of water just after dinner or shortly before sleep. The reason comes down to a nighttime phenomenon few people hear about. During sleep, blood sugar is supposed to stay stable and low. You're not eating. You haven't eaten for hours. In a healthy metabolic state, blood sugar stays steady through the night and is low on waking. But in many people, that's not what happens. They wake up with fasting glucose higher than expected, sometimes substantially, despite eating nothing. This is called the dawn phenomenon, and the cause isn't dietary, it's hepatic. During the night, the liver produces glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis, the synthesis of sugar from non-carbohydrate sources like amino acids. In a healthy system, this production is modest and well regulated. In someone with insulin resistance, the liver releases more. By morning, blood sugar is elevated before the first bite of food. Acetic acid taken before bed can help in several ways. First, it partially inhibits the enzymes that break down starches, so residual carbs from dinner contribute less to the overnight glycemic load. Second, some data suggest it moderates hepatic glucose production, which may attenuate that nighttime release. Third, it continues supporting insulin sensitivity through the night, which over time can reduce the underlying resistance driving the liver's overproduction. If you're diabetic, pre-diabetic, or insulin resistant, taking apple cider vinegar before bed and tracking your fasting blood sugar for 2 weeks can be a revealing experiment. An important note: if you're on glucose-lowering medications such as insulin, metformin, or other anti-diabetic drugs, talk to your doctor first because the effects can stack. The overnight benefits go beyond blood sugar. Sleep quality is one of the most underrated levers in metabolic health. When blood sugar stays stable through the night, the brain sends fewer stress signals that fragment sleep. The neurotransmitter balance supporting deep sleep is better preserved. You spend more time in restorative stages, the ones linked to growth hormone release and cellular repair. Growth hormone is released primarily during deep sleep. It plays a role in mobilizing fat. Insulin has the opposite effect. When it stays elevated overnight, it can suppress growth hormone release. Better controlled overnight blood sugar therefore creates a more favorable environment. Acetic acid can also serve directly as an energy substrate for some cells. This may support the active metabolic processes of sleep without requiring significant insulin mobilization. Better mineral absorption is another factor worth considering. Gastric acidity is necessary for proper absorption of magnesium, calcium, zinc, potassium, and iron. Some people who experience nighttime cramps, restless legs, or involuntary twitches may actually have suboptimal absorption rather than a true dietary deficiency. Improving stomach acidity before bed can, for some, ease these symptoms that fragment sleep. Note: these issues can have other medical causes and warrant professional input if they persist. On digestion, if you go to bed feeling heavy, bloated, or uncomfortable, vinegar after dinner may ease these symptoms for some people. As for reflux, the mechanism is more nuanced than often presented. Some reflux is linked to insufficient stomach acid, but other cases stem from different causes: hiatal hernia, excess weight, certain foods. Vinegar relieves some people and worsens it for others. If you have severe reflux, ulcers, or esophagitis, get medical advice before trying it. Here then is the full protocol. Window 1. 10 to 20 minutes before your largest meal. 1 tablespoon in 10 ounces of water sipped through a straw. This blunts the post-meal glycemic and insulin spike, extends the metabolic window favorable to fat use through the afternoon and evening, and reduces the craving cycle that disrupts the overnight metabolic state. Window 2. Just after dinner or within an hour before sleep. 1 to 2 tablespoons in a glass of water. This helps stabilize overnight blood sugar, moderates hepatic glucose production, may improve sleep quality for some, supports mineral absorption, and can ease certain digestive discomforts. You don't have to do everything at once. Start with one window. Most people find the pre-meal dose easier to build into a habit. Add the evening window once the first is consistent. Give it 30 days before assessing results. Your gut microbiome, your insulin sensitivity, your sleep architecture, none of these restructure in a week. A few quick answers to common questions. Does it break a fast? Apple cider vinegar is generally considered fast compatible and does not significantly disrupt the metabolic state you're aiming for. Can you take it with reflux? For many, yes. For others, no. Start with a small dose and listen to your body. If you have active ulcers, hold off without medical advice. Does warm water destroy it? No solid evidence supports that claim. Once or twice a day? If you can only do one, choose before your largest meal. If you want the full protocol, add the evening window. What if you forget the pre-meal dose? 5 minutes before is still better than after. Important: this protocol is a supportive tool, not a substitute for balanced eating, physical activity, or proper medical care. If you take medication, especially for diabetes, blood pressure, or digestive issues, talk to your doctor before starting. The effects on postprandial glucose are the best documented. The other benefits described here rest on plausible mechanisms or preliminary observations that warrant more research. It's inexpensive, it's accessible. The underlying biology is real for some of the effects, more speculative for others, and timing remains the variable that determines whether the measurable effects appear at all. 1 tablespoon, 10 ounces of water, 10 to 20 minutes before your largest meal. 1 to 2 tablespoons in water just after dinner. Try both for 2 weeks, and if you have a way to measure it, watch your morning blood sugar, your overnight hunger, and your morning energy. Then come back and tell me what changed.